Hello, I'm Edward de Chazal from Jurassic Academic, and today's presentation is on academic language. It's my first presentation on academic language. Let's start with the question, what is academic language? Then we'll move on to a text and we'll see examples of academic language. Well, the first point about academic language is it's global. It's written locally. It could be written in Spain, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, UK, but it's read globally. So the writer may be local, but the audience is potentially global. So it's a global kind of discourse. Second, it's accurate and complex. We'll look at accuracy in a moment. Third, it's personal and persuasive. It's written by students, teachers, academics, lecturers, professors, researchers, practitioners, and their purpose is partly to communicate their ideas, but also to persuade, to sell their ideas, to persuade their audience that their ideas, their research, their new proposal is convincing. Next, academic writing in particular is carefully planned, drafted, redrafted, edited, and this gives it a polish and a sense of accuracy. Accuracy, as I said, is very important. Also important is complexity, and the complexity is in phrases, particularly noun phrases. Noun phrases in academic texts are complex. They're also, as we will see, the most important and most proportionately the largest part of texts. The last point about academic language I'm making today is vocabulary. Now, vocabulary can be divided into three categories. First, the core vocabulary, such as the grammatical words and the frequent words. Then academic vocabulary, words like analyze, propose, discussion. These are interdisciplinary. They are not owned by one discipline, they are common across disciplines. Academic vocabulary. Lastly are technical words, and technical vocabulary works for that discipline, the technical specific concepts of a particular discipline. Now, the vocabulary can often be quite complex. For example, the word industry gets built up to industrial, and then there's a verb, industrialize, and then there's a noun, industrialization. So we have noun, industry, adjective, industrial, verb, industrialize, noun, industrialization. That's complex. My advice is first focus on meaning. Don't worry about words too much, but look at meanings. For example, you want to define something. What's the language of definitions? You want to explain something. What language can I use to explain? You want to evaluate. How can I evaluate? What language can I use? And when I say language, I mean not just words, but phrases. For example, the most important issue. Product designers. A good example of this. Must be able to operate. These are examples of phrases. Look at phrases. These are the building blocks of texts. We can divide words into two types. First, lexical words. These are the four word classes which carry meaning. Nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs. Function words. These are all the grammatical words like determiners, this, auxiliaries, prepositions, pronouns, coordinators, modals, subordinators, adverb particles, lots and lots of words. And strangely, these are divided almost equally, 51-49% across academic texts. Have a look at the slide. So half the text is lexical words which carry the meanings, the other half of the text are the words that hold them all together, the function words. And particularly the four most frequent are nouns, 30% of all the words, adjectives 9%, and of the function words prepositions 13.8%, and determiners 9.3%. This is over 60%, 62% of text, and these are the words which make up noun phrases. Noun phrases are what we'll be looking at in our text. Now let's look at a text. Here's a textbook aimed at secondary school students, Design and Technology. And I've chosen a text called Human Factors in Design. It's on page 40 to 41 of this textbook. Have a look at the text, and we will see this text analysed in different ways. Now, the most important way is looking at noun phrases. Noun phrases, as I said, make up most of a text. If you look at the words in red here, they make up 2/3 of the text, 66%, and that is typical across academic texts. 2/3 of the text is noun phrases. These are the meaning-bearing phrases. They carry the meaning, they present the main information, conceptual, factual, objective, physical, virtual, all these kinds of information. All this kind of information is presented through noun phrases. Let's have a look at a few examples. They could be one word, like design. They could be two words, like human factors. This means factors which are human. They could be more than two words. For example, the abilities and limitations of the end user. So we have a couple of words together, abilities and limitations, and then a prepositional phrase. Then we have some quite long ones, like the study of the human body and its movement, and so on. These noun phrases follow certain patterns, and they are the phrases to work on, to build up and use in your academic texts, and they will present and express most of the information that you need. Secondly, verbs. These are less frequent quantitatively. They make up 16% of this text, and in some ways they're very simple. In this text, all the verbs are in the present tense. That's kind of easy, except the one in a modal. For example, must be able to operate. That's a modal. But the others are all in the present tense, like have to, refer to, considers, comes from. So, what's complex about the verbs? What's interesting is the fact that many of them are prepositional verbs. Prepositional verbs are very frequent in academic texts, and these are to do with cognitive activities. For example, refer to is a spatial relation between two ideas. Adjectives, next, they make up 9% of the text, and we have first evaluative adjectives like important, they come first. Then we have descriptive adjectives like small, and third we have classifying adjectives like ergonomic, physiological. And they come in this order: evaluative, descriptive, classifying, and then we have the noun. Very important, they evaluate, describe and classify. Those are the three main things we do with our nouns. Next, adverbs and adverbials. These categories typically make up 10 to 15% of the text, and they tell us how, why, when, where, what for what purpose. Have a look at those. I've picked out a few more types of words. I find Greek words quite interesting. They're particularly common in certain academic disciplines, including medicine. Here's some picked out here. I've also picked out, as I mentioned, meaning-bearing words like definitions, examples and explanations. Explanation, for example, in other words. Examples, for example. Definitions, X refers to Y. X relates to Y. Next I've got cohesive language, cohesion and linking language. This holds the text together. One of my favourites next is perspective. These show the perspectives by which the writers have analysed the texts, such as human, sociological, physiological. And lastly, evaluative language, evaluation. There's a few examples there. Not so much in this text. Let's just quickly mention verbs. Over 90% of the verbs in academic texts are in the present or past tense, and they're simple. So not a huge amount of complexity there. The complexity is in the noun phrase. So my advice today is focus on meaning and focus on phrases. I'm Edward de Chazal from Jurassic Academic. This was Academic Language 1. Thank you very much for watching.